What's going on, everybody? This is Jake from College Football Red Zone coming at you with another edition of the First Look series as we now get into the 38th ranked team in college football. And not only is this team going to be the best team in the Pac 12, but it's the best team for me in the G6. And while I don't usually love to say that it isn't even close, it really feels like that there is a clear-cut difference between Boise State and the rest of the G6 right now. Because as I was looking through this roster, I think that the scary part is this Boise State team that won the Mountain West last year and won it the last couple of years before that. It looks across the board they're going to be a better roster. So definitely is going to put some scare into people. And that's why I do have Boise State as my primary representative for the college football playoff this year as the G6 representative. But we'll get into that roster conversation. We'll get into that record prediction as well. Plus, give a holistic look on the Pac 12 on top of that because of the fact that, hey, this is going to be the last Pac 12 team that we speak of. So let's go ahead and get into it. Hopefully, you guys enjoy this deep dive and first look on the Boise State football program. If you do, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well if you do have to be brand new. And let's go ahead and get into it. And we have to start this conversation with Spencer Danielson, who took over as the interim head coach in 2023. And immediately, it was kind of like a flip of a switch right away, just in terms of being able to take a program that maybe was a little bit down by their standards under the previous coaching staff and literally turn them back into the wagon that they typically have been, at least in my lifetime, as one of the best G6 programs in all of college football. Because ever since he took over in the middle of that 2023 campaign, he has put together a 24-8 record. He, in that interim season, literally went undefeated as their head coach. That led to a Mountain West title. They won the Mountain West again in 2024, which led to a trip to the college football playoff. Actually was a competitive game against Penn State. It was a one-score game in the fourth quarter. And then last year, even though last year was a little bit of a down year and a little bit of a disappointment by their standards, they still won the Mountain West. So a three-time Mountain West champion. Obviously, they're in a new conference now jumping over to the new look Pac-12, as well as with some of the other better programs that were in the Mountain West joining the Pac-12 as well. And so you look at this roster holistically, and I genuinely believe that this is going to be a team that is going to hold up pretty well in the trenches and could give some of these power teams a little bit of a scare, right? I mean, we got to start with the offensive and defensive line. This offensive line, I think, is going to be pretty good, and it might be even better than last year. Yes, they lose Cage Casey, who was a really nice offensive tackle for you, goes off to the NFL, but then you still keep a Roger Caron from who was playing on the interior, third team all Mountain West type of player last year. He is still on this team. But then you also add a really nice true freshman in Cole Cronin, who was a four-star recruit, according to 247 Sports, in this 2026 high school recruiting class. And I think that Cole Cronin is the type of guy that can absolutely play right away and could potentially be just as good, if not a little bit better, than Cage Casey down the line. Don't think that it will happen this year, but I do think Cole Cronin would be good enough to hypothetically crack that starting lineup for the Boise State Broncos. And I think that's going to really serve him well in terms of those early reps and those early experiences as well. But then I feel just as confident about the defensive side of the ball. I mean, the edge rushers, I think they're going to be able to get home to his quarterback as well. Jaden Virgin Morgan, second team All Mountain West player. He comes back at the edge rusher position. Got some continuity to work with on the defensive side of the ball too. So I think that the trenches are going to be looking pretty good for Spencer Danielson's team entering the 2026 campaign as well. But that's not all. I mean, other position groups I'm looking at that I felt genuinely got better over the course of the season. I mean, first and foremost, they bring back their running back, Dylan Riley, who is a second team All Mountain West player. He's going to be back and is going to help out with Madsen Maddox in terms of his try to get him back from the regression that he had last season as well. Having an all conference running back right next to you, that's going to be really helpful. I think the receiving room actually got a little bit better as well. I understand that they lost Chris Marshall to Arkansas, who put up some solid numbers last year, a little over 500 yards and a couple of touchdowns, but Terrius Favors, another true freshman to keep an eye on, four-star recruit in the 2026 high school recruiting class. I think Terrius Favors is one of those guys that I think could do some really good work and could also crack the starting lineup right away for the Boise State Broncos. That is certainly in the cards for him as well. Very high on him based upon what I've been hearing as well. And then how about the secondary? Yes, you do lose a Ty Benfield who transfers to LSU, and he was a really good defensive back. One of the best defensive backs in the entire Mountain West, not just on their team, but I still think that they're going to be more than just okay, if that makes sense. Like I look at them at the corner position. Like I think they're gonna be fine, right? Because you add a Roman Tillman from South Dakota, and I think that's someone that not only could start for them, but could have a breakout type of season and burst onto the scene and within the Pac-12. Plus, they added Jericho Washington Jr. out of Kennesaw State, was very pivotal on the Kennesaw State defense. Part of why they won the CUSA last season in just their second year at the FBS level. He had multiple forced fumbles last year from the corner position. So losing Ty Benfield, that definitely sucks, not going to lie. But I still think that they're going to be okay in the secondary. So I don't have a ton of concerns there. Might be a little bit iffy just from a star power perspective, but I think the depth is still going to be there. And I think they're going to be fine in the secondary. Finally, special teams. I think special teams is going to be really good just in terms of Oscar Doyle coming back. Was one of the better punters in the Mountain West as well. Was a third team all Mountain West player. And so really the two questions that I have about this Boise State football team before anything else is, can Mad Maddox get back to being the 2024 version that helped Boise State lead to the college football playoff? Can that come back or at least get a slightly better version of what he was last year? Because last year, I mean, there was some rough moments in there last year. So you're hoping that, that's not what he is and he can get back to the form that he had a couple of years ago. Can they also avoid complacency as well? Outside of one of the games that they're going to play early on in the season, I look at the rest of their schedule, and we're going to check the rest of the schedule in a little bit. I look at Boise State, and I think they should be heavily favored in every other game that they play in. And so, can they avoid that complacency where they believe that they can just roll their headgear out onto the field at any given time and assume that they would just win even if they give a C minus or D plus type of effort? That's something that I'm kind of watching for, is how do they handle things from a mentality standpoint. So let's go ahead and get into that other conversation here in terms of what their schedule looks like. So first game of the year, they're going to be heavily tested. They go at Oregon, and it's the type of game where, hey, they're going to be a double-digit underdog, but they certainly have the continuity. They certainly have the experience to where they could give a team in the power conference ranks and a good team in the power conference ranks a hard time. Oregon is on a little bit of a different level, though, and they also have some continuity coming back, mainly with Dante Moore, who was expected to be a top 5 pick last year, ends up staying, which was a huge surprise at the time. You're also going to Autzen, so I'm not counting on them winning this game, but all of these other games that they have, the model is currently projecting Boise State to be a double-digit favorite in all of these other games that they're going to play in over the course of the season. Memphis, for example, they're a 15.5-point favorite. Western Michigan on the road. Mind you, Western Michigan is your defending champions of the MAC. They're listed as a 16-point favorite. Even Fresno State on the road and Washington State on the road. That's still a 2-touchdown favorite as well. And so it just really goes to show that if they maintain the mental focus and they don't have any issues in terms of dealing with injuries, Boise State is in line to have a very successful season, which is why I am projecting them to have an 11-1. And if they end up losing, like if it's a 8-4 and 9-3 type of season again, I would genuinely be surprised unless there was serious injuries all over this roster, which that's just something that's hard to predict. So that's why not only do I have Boise State playing for the Pac 12 championship, I think they win the Pac 12 this year. And I do think that they end up going on and representing the G6 in the college football playoff this year. So before we sign off here tonight, Boise State is the last Pac 12 team that we've talked about. So let's go ahead and just give a little bit of a recap in terms of what is that going to look like this upcoming season in terms of what the Pac-12 standings are going to look like. So you can see the power rankings for the Pac-12 that I currently have, and the teams that I've talked about, and there is one of those. Like there's certainly a gap between Boise State and the other teams. I think those prominent contenders. You're looking at like a San Jose or a San Diego State and a Fresno State as maybe the premium contenders outside of Boise State. Whereas, these other programs, even in the bottom half in Washington State, like they could certainly be foreign in some of these other team sides and make things up as well. But in terms of who I have Boise State playing in the Pac 12 championship, I think San Diego State would be that team that I would pick right now. And I would think this game would happen in Boise, Idaho. And ultimately, I would have Boise State winning the Pac 12. And as long as they don't suffer other losses, I think that they're going to be okay. And what's going to benefit Boise State as well, and it's not just them, but it's for these other teams in the Pac 12. Out of the top 10 schedules in the G6 from a strength of schedule perspective, 8 out of the 10 do reside in the Pac 12. And there's only 8 teams in this conference, mind you. So that's going to really help out Boise State's case because it's going to be like you think the favoritism to the SEC is going to be bad. Like, I think it could be just as much for the Pac 12 in terms of benefit of the doubt compared to the rest of the G6. But I am curious to hear your thoughts on what you think about this Boise State team. Again, do have them at least starting out as the number 38 ranked team in college football. Is that too high? Is that too low? Definitely am curious to hear your thoughts down below in the comments section. But if you enjoyed this channel, not only Boise State football, but the First Look series in its entirety, do need you to do a couple of favors for me. Make sure you go ahead, hit that like button, as well as hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new. This is Jake from College Football Red Zone signing off. Hoping you guys are all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.